As a longtime pigeon racing enthusiast and breeder, I'll share my comprehensive insights on early season breeding management. This knowledge comes from decades of hands-on experience working with racing pigeons. Early season breeding, a comprehensive guide to successful racing pigeon reproduction. Timing and preparation. The foundation of successful early breeding begins with proper timing. In most temperate regions, I start preparing my breeding pairs in late December to early January. This timing allows the youngsters to be ready for training during the ideal spring weather conditions. However, the exact timing depends heavily on your geographical location and racing schedule. Before initiating the breeding process, all breeding stock must undergo thorough health checks. I ensure all birds receive appropriate vaccinations and treatments for parasites at least 6 weeks before pairing. This preparation period is crucial for producing healthy offspring and protecting the breeding stock. Selection and pairing. The selection of breeding pairs is perhaps the most critical decision in the entire process. I focus on several key factors. Physical characteristics. I look for birds with excellent muscle tone, bright eyes, soft, well-fitting feathers, and proper wing alignment. The keel bone should be straight and strong, and the breast muscles should be well developed but not excessive. Performance history. Beyond physical traits, I carefully consider each bird's racing performance and that of their lineage. Birds that have demonstrated consistent racing abilities, particularly in challenging conditions, make excellent breeding stock. Genetic compatibility. I maintain detailed records of bloodlines to avoid inbreeding while capitalizing on proven genetic combinations. Some of my most successful pairs have come from crossing birds with complementary strengths. For example, pairing a sprint specialist with a bird known for endurance. Pairing process. The actual pairing process requires patience and careful observation. I introduce pairs in separate compartments within my breeding loft, using a partition system that allows them to see each other but prevents physical contact initially. This method reduces aggressive behavior and allows for natural courtship. After 2 to 3 days of visual contact, I remove the partition during daylight hours while monitoring their interaction. Most pairs will bond within 5 to 7 days, though some may take longer. Signs of successful pairing include mutual preening, the cock bird driving the hen, and both birds showing interest in the nest box. Nest box management. Each breeding pair requires a spacious nest box measuring approximately 24 inches wide by 16 inches deep. I provide 2 nest bowls per box, allowing pairs to start their second round while still feeding their first round youngsters. The nest bowls I use are made of high-quality plastic with a rough interior surface that helps prevent splayed legs in chicks. I line these bowls with tobacco stems and pine needles, which have natural anti-parasitic properties. The breeding pairs will arrange these materials to their liking. Feeding program. The feeding program for breeding pairs is substantially different from that of racing birds. I implement a 3-phase feeding approach. Pre-breeding phase, 2 weeks before pairing. High protein mix, 17 to 18% protein. Enhanced with additional legumes. Supplemented with vitamins E and B complex. Fresh grit and minerals available at all times. During laying and incubation. Maintained high protein diet. Increased fat content through the addition of small seeds. Additional calcium supplementation for hens. Fresh greens offered 3 times weekly. Feeding young and parents. Peak protein mix, 19 to 20% protein. Increased quantity, fed 3 to 4 times daily. Addition of pellets specifically designed for breeding birds. Enhanced mineral and vitamin supplementation. The daily feeding routine is crucial. I provide fresh feed twice daily during the pre-breeding and incubation phases, increasing to 3 to 4 times daily once chicks hatch. All feeding stations are kept meticulously clean to prevent contamination. Breeding cycle management. Once pairs are established, the breeding cycle begins in earnest. Most hens will lay their first egg within 8 to 10 days of pairing. The second egg typically follows 44 to 48 hours later. I mark each egg with the laying date and parent information using a soft pencil. Incubation period. Duration, 18 days from the laying of the first egg. Both parents share incubation duties. First egg typically hatches around day 18. Second egg follows 24 to 36 hours later. Early chick development. Parents feed crop milk for the first 5 to 7 days. Gradually transition to regurgitated grain. Daily weight monitoring is essential. Ban chicks between 5 to 7 days of age. Young bird development. The first 3 weeks of a young bird's life are critical. During this period, I maintain detailed records of their development. Week 1. Daily weight checks. Monitoring crop filling. Checking for appropriate activity levels. Observing parent attentiveness. Week 2. Continue weight monitoring. Observe feather development. Check for any sign of health issues. Monitor parent feeding behavior. Week 3. Begin monitoring wing development. Check leg strength and positioning. Observe initial movement within nest bowl. Monitor transition to solid food consumption. Environmental control. Temperature and ventilation management are crucial for early breeding success. My breeding loft maintains temperature between 45 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit, 7 to 18 degrees Celsius. Relative humidity around 55 to 65%. Adequate ventilation without drafts. Natural light supplemented with artificial lighting to maintain 14-hour days. Health monitoring. Daily health checks are essential during the breeding season. I watch for signs of respiratory issues, dropping consistency and color, parent bird condition and weight, chick development and growth rates. Any health issues are addressed immediately to prevent spread within the breeding loft. Weaning process. Young birds typically begin leaving the nest around 24 to 28 days of age. The weaning process requires careful management. Initial exploration phase, 24 to 28 days. Allow supervised exploration of loft floor. Maintain parent access for feeding. Provide shallow water containers. Begin offering small amounts of feed. Full weaning phase, 28 to 35 days. Gradual separation from parents. Introduction to young bird section. Monitoring of independent feeding. Social integration with other youngsters. Post-weaning care. Regular weight checks. Observation of feeding behavior. Monitoring social integration. Initial flight training within loft. Record keeping. Throughout the breeding season, I maintain comprehensive records including pairing dates, egg-laying dates, hatching dates, daily weight progression, health observations, feeding responses, behavioral notes. These records prove invaluable for future breeding decisions and help identify successful breeding lines. First flight training. Around 35 to 40 days of age, young birds begin their first flight training. Initial flight exercises within the loft. Supervised access to aviary. Progressive exposure to outdoor environment. Careful monitoring of weather conditions. Special considerations for early breeding. Early season breeding presents unique challenges. Greater attention to temperature control. Enhanced nutritional requirements. More careful monitoring of parent condition. Increased vigilance for health issues. Success in early breeding requires anticipating and addressing these challenges proactively. Conclusion. Early season breeding of racing pigeons demands meticulous attention to detail, comprehensive understanding of pigeon physiology, and unwavering dedication to proper management practices. The success of your racing team begins with these early breeding decisions and management practices. Through careful selection, proper nutrition, and attentive care, you can produce high-quality young birds ready for successful racing careers. The most crucial factors for success are maintaining consistent management practices, providing excellent nutrition, ensuring proper health care, and keeping detailed records. Remember that each breeding season provides new learning opportunities to refine and improve your breeding program for future success. The phenomenon of pairing pigeons during a full moon has often been mentioned with a smile in the pigeon sport community, appearing almost like a fairy tale to those unaware of its intricacies. Years ago, a friend pointed out to me that I consistently paired my pigeons during a full moon, attributing my success in breeding high-quality pigeons to this practice. At that time, I had never heard of the full moon theory, but I listened to the seasoned enthusiasts who discussed it. They explained that coupling pigeons precisely during a full moon would result in superior offspring compared to other times. Through my investigation of this theory, I have discovered the following details. When we pair our pigeons during a full moon and take into account the time it takes for the eggs to be laid and hatch, we arrive at the exact moment when the young hatch from their eggs. Interestingly, this aligns with the subsequent full moon and the timing for coupling during that phase. The philosophy behind the full moon mating theory suggests that the young pigeons in the nest benefit most from the intensified rays of the sun reflected by the full moon. This continues for approximately 13 days until the next new moon. One might dismiss this as a myth, but I have examined my breeding records and compared the outcomes of pairings during full moon periods with those during other times. Consequently, I have developed a preference for coupling during full moons. Thus, there is a kernel of truth in this theory. But what role does the full moon actually play? During the period surrounding a full moon, there is often stable weather with ample sunshine. It is widely known that young animals require sunlight for proper development, and it certainly doesn't hurt if the loft is bathed in abundant sunlight during the first 14 days of a young pigeon's life. Moreover, in the pigeon sport, it is recognized that pigeons rely on sunlight for orientation. Could it be that these factors work together harmoniously? It is established that there is indeed a certain relationship between the orientation ability of homing pigeons and sunlight. Homing pigeons, migratory birds, certain salmon, and butterfly species share the common trait of possessing orientation skills. Whether or not they possess this ability largely depends on whether Mother Nature has bestowed it upon them. Similar to how a pigeon's body grows each day until it is ready to be weaned, the organ responsible for orientation skills also develops during the same period. This holds true for racing pigeons, migratory birds, and certain butterfly species like the monarch butterfly. However, there is one exception: pigeon fanciers are the only ones who interfere in the development of the orientation ability. In fact, they determine what a young pigeon receives from Mother Nature to foster its orientation skills, or whether it receives anything at all. In the open air, the timing of pairing chosen by pigeon fanciers is usually different, as it is dictated by Mother Nature and the parent birds. One can observe this when various bird species simultaneously hatch in nests. Is this mere chance? Nonetheless, there are certain caveats. We must acknowledge that numerous factors, or properties, collaborate to ensure the successful return of a racing pigeon from a race, with orientation being one of them. Even in the wild, the development of orientation abilities does not always proceed as desired. In exceptional cases, migratory birds may still be present in nature during the middle of winter when they should have already embarked on their annual migration. There may also be migratory birds in our vicinity that we would not typically expect to encounter, often being birds less than a year old. The reason behind this lies in a specific developmental phase during which Mother Nature did not provide them with sufficient resources to develop their orientation skills successfully. In the past few decades, pigeon fanciers have also contributed to such deviations due to trends in widowhood, darkening techniques, tight and inflexible flight schedules, and the desire of every fancier to become a champion someday. A quick look at the statistics reveals that 30 years ago, half as many pigeon fanciers bred twice as many youngsters compared to the current scenario. Why do we engage in such practices? Primarily to have as many pigeons left after the young bird season as possible. Yet the quantity and quality of these pigeons often prove disappointing when compared to the overall number produced. Homing pigeons, migratory birds, certain salmon, and butterfly species utilize a specific type of energy source for orientation during their homeward journey or annual migration to the south, or vice versa. Without the ability to generate or access this energy, these species, including homing pigeons, cannot orient themselves. The sun undoubtedly plays a vital role in this process. Every pigeon fancier knows from personal experience that the most beautiful and often the best offspring are bred during the months of April, May, and June. Furthermore, it is rare to lose any of these pigeons during races towards the end of the season. The difference between winter breeding and summer breeding is evident in the number of sunlight hours and the strength of the sun. Each year, the sun gains strength starting from the end of March, which we recognize as the onset of spring. The timing when the sun begins to strengthen is determined by the preceding full moon before the 21st of March. From that moment onwards, the sun progressively provides young pigeons with the necessary building blocks for developing their orientation skills. On the contrary, young pigeons born before that date receive a proportionally lesser amount of these building blocks. It might be wise to adjust future coupling dates accordingly. Young pigeons, whose parents are paired in mid-February, always reap optimal benefits from the favorable conditions that Mother Nature offers them during their growth phase. In the past, the racing season would commence at the beginning of May, but now it starts a month earlier, with the desire to organize races even earlier. However, one could argue that the problems began with the advancement of flight programs. Previously, racing pigeons were coupled in mid-February, and winter breeding lofts were not as prevalent. To conclude, intervention in nature always comes with a price. Returning to the topic of pairing with a full moon, I will take it into consideration this year. If it does not yield benefits, it certainly won't be detrimental. Lunar influence. The full moon has long been associated with various phenomena and beliefs. It has captivated human imagination and has been linked to folklore, myths, and cultural practices throughout history. While scientific evidence may not fully support all claims, the moon's gravitational pull does have tangible effects on Earth, such as ocean tides. Animal behavior. Some studies suggest that certain animal behaviors may be influenced by the lunar cycle, including mating rituals, migration patterns, and feeding habits. For example, marine animals like coral spawn during specific lunar phases, and some species of birds adjust their migratory patterns based on the moon. Nocturnal activity. The brightness of the full moon can affect the behavior of nocturnal animals. It provides natural illumination, making it easier for animals to navigate, hunt, and communicate during nighttime hours. This can be observed in various nocturnal species, including owls, wolves, and certain insects. Circadian rhythms. The full moon's light can also influence the circadian rhythms of animals, which regulate their biological processes, including sleep-wake cycles and hormonal activity. Some studies suggest that certain animals, such as rodents and primates, may experience disrupted sleep patterns during full moon nights. Reproduction and breeding. In some species, lunar cycles are believed to synchronize with reproductive processes. For instance, certain marine organisms time their spawning activities with the lunar phases to optimize fertilization success. However, the extent to which the full moon directly affects reproduction in different animal species is still an area of scientific inquiry. It is important to note that while these observations and associations exist, the full moon's influence on specific animal behaviors and reproduction can vary widely across different species. Furthermore, scientific research in this field is ongoing, and our understanding of the full moon's effects continues to evolve. Overall, the full moon holds a place of intrigue and fascination in many aspects of life, including the natural world and cultural beliefs. Whether its influence on pigeon breeding and racing is scientifically proven or simply based on anecdotal evidence within the pigeon sport community remains a topic for further exploration and individual interpretation. Get my main racing system, just email me direct. I'm an experienced ex-pigeon racer from England, and I can offer valuable insights and guidance on all aspects of pigeon racing, from breeding to racing. During my racing days, I managed a small team of no more than 70 pigeons, including stock, young birds, and old birds. It was not uncommon for me to send as few as 6 birds to a race and still secure the top 3 positions out of up to 2,500 pigeons in my club and federation. My race distances typically ranged up to 300 miles, and I consistently achieved top 5 placements in my club. My expertise extends to the art of selecting excellent breeders, including evaluating pigeons based on their eye-sign characteristics. I firmly believe that true champions can only be bred from top-quality stock, and I can guide you in identifying and acquiring such pigeons. I understand that many pigeons for sale are advertised based on their lineage or pedigree, but I emphasize the importance of assessing the bird itself rather than relying solely on paperwork. As part of my offer, I invite you to share photos of your pigeons, including their eye sign and wing characteristics. I'll provide you with free advice on racing and breeding based on my extensive experience and knowledge. Additionally, I will share auction links to high-quality breeding birds that have the potential to produce winners in your loft. Here's what you can expect to receive from me. A comprehensive Word document containing valuable insights and strategies for successful pigeon racing, including specific racing methods for both old and young birds, as well as general advice. Private YouTube videos sent to your email, covering various aspects of pigeon racing, from breeding to race preparation. Detailed recommendations on supplements and additives to add to your pigeon's drinking water, with scientific evidence supporting their effectiveness. Similar products are used by professional athletes and racehorses to enhance performance. Assurance that your pigeons will race home faster, provided that you have quality birds to begin with.